Hello everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. When cherries are in season, I love to make today's delicious sweet baked cherry buns. These incredible cherry pastries, also known as Piroshki, are a childhood favorite of mine. We always went cherry picking and we'd come home and make a ton of different cherry desserts, and these were always my favorite. They're made with a really soft and fluffy yeast dough that's super easy to put together. Just combine the wet and dry ingredients, knead the dough, and then we'll shape the buns. We're gonna stuff them full of chopped sweet cherries and then bake them, proof them, and enjoy. These buns are so light and fluffy. I absolutely love the texture of the dough. And then you bite into them and they're just chock full of those delicious sweet cherries. This is the ultimate summertime treat. Don't forget to head on down into that video description box for all the recipe details up on my website, including this recipe with metric measurements. And now let me show you how to make these delicious cherry buns. Let's get things started with the dough. We're going to need 1.5 cups of whole milk. And for today's recipe, you can use instant yeast or conventional regular yeast. I'm using instant yeast today, so I'm just going to sprinkle it in and go straight to the next ingredients. Drop in 1 large egg, 1/2 cup of white granulated sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1/4 cup of melted unsalted butter. Whisk this all together until you have a nice uniform mixture and that yeast dissolves. We'll need about 4 to 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and you want to start adding in gradually. So add in about 1 cup, whisk it in really well until you don't have any more clumps remaining, and then just gradually add more. Once the batter thickens, we'll switch over to a spatula. Once a dough ball forms, you want to turn the dough out onto a well-floured work surface and continue to knead and add more flour as needed until your dough is really smooth and elastic and no longer sticky. And I love using a little bench scraper to help me with this process because the dough is still a little bit sticky at this point. Once your dough is no longer sticky, go ahead and knead it for about 5 to 7 minutes until it's really smooth and elastic. I'm going to place my kneaded dough back into the mixing bowl, cover this up with a towel, and today I'm using instant yeast, so I'm just going to let the dough rest for about 15 to 20 minutes while I make my cherry filling. If you're using regular or conventional yeast, set this bowl into a warm corner of your kitchen and let it proof for about an hour, hour and a half until it's doubled up in size, and then make the buns. Next, let's make our cherry filling. I have about 7.5 cups of chopped pitted cherries. You can use any variety. I'm going to add in 3/4 cups of white granulated sugar, and you can adjust the amount of sugar to taste. So you can also add less sugar. And we'll need 1/2 cup of cornstarch, and this is going to help thicken all the cherry juices as the buns bake. Add in 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then just use a spoon and toss everything together. This recipe will also work if you have like canned cherries. You just want to drain off all the juices. You can also use frozen cherries. Just make sure to thaw those first before you use them in the recipe. Once your dough has rested or proofed, you want to take a bench scraper or a knife and divide the dough evenly into 16 pieces. I'm just going to start by splitting it in half and then in half again. Let's start with our first bun. I'm going to keep the rest of the dough covered with a little napkin on the side. You want to work with a lightly floured work surface. Use a rolling pin and just roll the piece out gently, usually about a 6-inch circle. And then place approximately 1/2 cup of the cherries into the center. And to shape the buns, you want to bring the dough up and over and try not to get any filling on the sides. Just kind of pinch the seams real tight so the juice doesn't come out as the buns are baking. I just like to gather up all the dough on the bottom, pinch it really well, just like this. And once you have all your buns shaped, it's time to add a little egg wash over the top. I just took 1 egg with about a tablespoon of water, mixed it up really well, and use a pastry brush and brush it on generously onto each bun. And this will give them a really beautiful, like kind of glossy golden finish once they're done baking. Now that we have our buns shaped, it's time to let them proof. And I usually like to set the pans next to my oven, which is preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Let them proof anywhere from about 40 to 50 minutes until the dough gets really fluffy and light, kind of doubled up in size. And these go into the oven to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 24 to 26 minutes. And I do recommend baking them just 1 sheet at a time. Bake until they're golden brown all over. Let them set on the pan for about 10 minutes and then transfer onto a wire rack to cool. These are going to be super hot when they come out of the oven, so make sure to let them cool down a little bit before enjoying. And once these come out of the oven, let them sit on the pan for about 10-15 minutes and then carefully lift them up and off the parchment paper onto a wire rack to cool. And let's split one of these open so we could see what it looks like on the inside. Oh, this dough is just so incredibly fluffy. And check out all those delicious cherries on the inside. Just wow. These sweet baked cherry buns turned out incredible, and I love the aroma of these baking in the oven too. They fill your whole house and kitchen with that incredible sweet desserty baking aroma. And these look so cute. I love the golden brown color on the top, and then the inside is just filled with loads and loads of cherries. Time to give it a try. But before I do that, I want to remind you, don't forget to head on down into that video description box, and I have all the details for this recipe on my website, including metric measurements. And now let's enjoy these. Just love how fluffy the dough is too. It's just so light and spongy as well, like when you press it on the outside. These are so delicious, and they remind me so much of my childhood growing up, cherry picking, making these piroshki with my mom. They are so incredible. That dough on the outside is so light and fluffy. You have all the sweet cherries on the inside. These are such a treat for summertime. You are gonna love them. Just fantastic. I love cherries, and I love these little sweet cherry buns. If you wanted to, you could also add more fruits on the inside. You could pair the cherries with like raspberries or strawberries or maybe even some diced peaches. A little fruit combination would be incredible here too. Thank you so much for watching my latest episode. I hope you enjoy these delicious cherry buns at home, and I'll see you next time with a new recipe.